Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, whatever time of day you have. So I hope you're all well. In the previous sessions, it was always very obvious that everybody here speaks English. So, and last time we also did it without translation because of technical issues, and maybe we'll also do it without translation to save time. Looking at the names, I think, apart from Dimitro, who I think wrote in English often, all the time, you all can understand English. So, yes, let's start. So we are in the 5th chapter of Shantideva's Bodhicaryavatara. Oops. So this chapter is on vigilance. And usually when we look into the 5th chapter, especially the Gilo commentaries, they start to talk about the 6 parameters. And the 6 parameters are basically compassion and wisdom. And so please, we don't have to go through the 6 parameters, but please try to generate that in your mind, you know, that generation of compassion and wisdom, because we want to study this Shantideva text for the sake of all sentient beings. So that is compassion, and we want to lead them to that is the wisdom part. And also that is for the benefit of others, but also for our own sake, you know, wisdom is liberates us from samsara, and passion is what liberates us from nirvana. So that is our aim, that we go beyond samsara and nirvana. And yeah, so please that and with this intention, please let's do this session. If we look into the 6 parameters, then and the Bodhicaryavatara, we can basically say that the first 3 chapters could be somewhat related to the first parameter of generosity, and also the 10th chapter of Bodhicaryavatara, which is the dedication chapter, is of course giving, you know, we dedicate, so that is also practice of generosity. And then the other parameters are of course explained in the chapters 4 to 9. And especially the second parameter of discipline is what we are talking about at the moment. And yeah, as I mentioned also last times, discipline is not like explicitly taught, you know, there's not so much mention of what vows actually to keep or what precepts to hold. But there are the factors are taught by Shantideva that make us able to hold these vows and precepts. So, and these factors are like this mindfulness, conscientiousness, and vigilance. And the vigilance here, chapter 5, this is the thing with some people or some translators, they use it as a, they say it's like a introspection, and some also call it watchfulness. And this is basically where we always look inside what is happening in our mind, you know, what is happening with our speech or what is happening with our body. And here it is translated actually by Stephen Batchelor as guarding alertness. Why not? So, yeah, maybe we just go through the text and then I think it will be explained, So here this guarding alertness is just watching, watching what is happening. And that is so important, because if we watch our mind, we are guarding our mind, that's why it's correctly translated here as guarding alertness. Maybe it's not the literal translation, but it's definitely the meaning. And so in this 5th chapter, we have like 4 main points. And the first point is that we watch our mind and that we guard our mind so that we are able to implement all the trainings that we want to do, like the other parameters, for example. And the basic idea is that all harm and all goodness also comes from our mind. So our mind is the source of everything. Therefore, it is so important to really guard and protect our mind. So the mind is really the cause for everything. It's how we perceive things. And speaking of karma, it's also about what we will perceive and what we will meet in this life. And then the second part of this 5th chapter is then that we really then apply this introspection, that we apply this mindfulness, to then really guard our mind. And here it is also then explained what side effects or disadvantages we will encounter if we don't have a guarded mind. And it's also explained how we then practice this alertness or mindfulness. And then in the part of this chapter, then Shantideva is explaining how we then train our mind through this introspection, so that we avoid really the non-virtuous actions and that we gather the virtuous actions and that we are really benefiting others. And then the last part of this chapter is more about other practices that we do in this context. So this is just a short overview over this chapter. And if we now start with chapter 1, then here it's who wish to guard their practice should very attentively guard their minds. For those who do not guard their minds will be unable to guard their practice. Yeah, so here really the importance is given on the protection or guarding the mind, because if we don't guard our mind, then it doesn't matter what we want to do, even do worldly things, we will not to really do them properly because we might be overwhelmed by anger or jealousy or distraction. So therefore, it is important to guard our mind. And then we can do worldly things. Of course, that is not our aim, but then of course it's also possible to then practice the 6 parameters, or we can do our sadhana practice, we can do our nandro or whatever, All that is only possible if we really watch our mind and if we keep it in check. But if we don't do that, it is said here, then it's not really possible to practice, and also, the mind training is not really possible. And then also the discipline would really feel like a burden, something that from outside we force onto ourselves, and that is then really something that is possible and doesn't seem fun, But from Buddhist point of view, like discipline or precepts are not they're, I mean, not necessarily fun, but they're definitely not a burden or something that we force onto ourselves, but they're meant to make our life easier and more simple. So therefore, there is actually that it's a liberation already, you know, because we are liberated from complexity or from we're liberated from getting into trouble. So that is the idea of discipline, and for that we need to guard our minds. That is just like a short introduction, and now we come to the first point here of this chapter 5, and then you will also understand why I have this picture here on the right side of the screen. I hope you can see it. So now the topic is to really understand, you know, that all harm or disadvantages or negativities, they come from a mind that is like degenerated or not tamed or distracted or wild. And so in the first topic here, then in verse 2, it is talking about these fault and disadvantages, you know, of having such a wide. So it says, wait. In this world, unsubdued and crazy elephants are incapable of causing such harms as the miseries of the deepest hell, which can be caused by the unleashed elephant of mind. So here you can see, you know, there's maybe you can't actually. This is quite this is not really full here. Actually, sorry, I just quickly downloaded that picture. Down there, the elephant is very black. This means he's like crazy and drunken, maybe, and mad, and therefore the elephant is creating so many harms and problems. So that is the meaning here of the picture. You know, the elephant is our mind. You know, and in the beginning, it is very crazy and, let's say, drunken and mad. You know, and wild. So, and it says, you know, if you just in ordinary world outside, if there's really an elephant that is mad and drunken, then of course you would be afraid. You know, because let's say in your neighborhood, that kind of elephant is running around. Of course, everybody would be very scared. I mean, it would be much more scary and dangerous than like the coronavirus, I think. So it would really create a lot of mess, and many things and many beings would be destroyed and killed by this crazy elephant that is running around wildly. And I heard in ancient India also this was the case. You know, this was like the drunken elephants were used as a weapon, you know, to destroy villages or the enemies. And yes, that is understandable, right? On this worldly level, that is really creating a lot of chaos and pain, you know, a drunken, crazy elephant. But Shantideva is saying, given that even if that is the case, you know, like a crazy mind, you know, like a mind that is so egoistically and dualistically, you know, is creating much more problems, because the dualistic mind is not only creating problems in this life, but in all future lives also. You know, it determines the next rebirth and so on. So therefore, it is much worse than the outside elephant, that can only create problems in this life. So that is here the idea. Okay, here's one question. So from Pallavi, yes, go through the picture little by little. And Marina is saying here in regards to joy while practicing, what about how to handle laziness, dullness, exhaustion when it comes to practice? I mean, the best motivator is suffering, basically, you know, like either that we contemplate that we are suffering or that other beings are suffering. That is really our driving force, you know. And maybe at the beginning it's fine to concentrate more on the suffering that we have and that we want to get rid of it and that we want to be free of suffering. But then, of course, in the next steps, we also then try to be aware that other beings are basically in the same position. They also suffer and they also want to be free of suffering. So that is definitely something that is sort of the main motivation that should overcome laziness. But this we will also learn then in the 7th chapter, you know, when we talk about laziness, there are like 6 factors of this enthusiasm mentioned in the 7th chapter here by Shantideva, which now we will reach more sooner than later. And so there are factors like this aspiration or steadfastness, you know, that brings us steadily on the path and that overcomes laziness. And also inspiration is a good factor, you know, to be inspired. So maybe it's also good to read some life stories of masters of the past. That also helps against dullness in our mind. And I don't know, exhaustion, why we could be exhausted. But I think it's similar, you know, like I think our batteries are getting recharged by bodhicitta, you know, by having that strong motivation, that strong love and compassion, you know, to really work for the benefit of others, you know, without any expectations, of course. And the less we have the less frustration or exhaustion will happen. So therefore, that is very important, you know, to have that a big vision, you know, and this all-inclusive compassion with the beings, and that normally is like, of course, giving us joy and also giving us the strength. And then also sometimes, as Dzongsar Rinpoche said, it's also good to look back and also see, you know, that we have already progressed on the path. You know, maybe years ago we were more small-minded or more ego-centered, but now practice, maybe we have seen some progress. We are more flexible, more open, more kind, patient, and that also gives us a lot of joy, you know, in a good sense, you know, and that is also good against exhaustion. Yeah, this is what I would think right now. And then we then more about the benefits, how good it is and how beneficial it is to protect our mind. So here it says, but if the elephant of mind is firmly bound on all sides by the rope of mindfulness, this you can also see here in the picture, you know, the monk has the rope and therefore is applying mindfulness to the mind. All fears will cease to exist and all virtues will come into my hand. So, so Drampa, this is the mindfulness that is, very important. And by that, you sort of bind the elephant, you know, so that the elephant is bound to virtue, you know, bound to positivity, bound to altruism, and is less wild, you know, and is more able. You know, and of course, at some point here, the monk can get rid of the rope and the elephant is tamed already. Then the mindfulness is not necessary so much, you know. But in the beginning, it is very important to really bind the elephant, bind the crazy mind, tame the crazy mind. And that helps us, yeah, to give up like negative behavior, you know, or distraction, and being distracted to outer emotions, or being distracted by outer things, or by inner emotions, you know. So, and this will be reduced more and more, and by that, our mind will be more and more positive. Our speech and our body will behave also more and more positive. And in Theravada, yeah, there are many methods to generate that mindfulness, and that helps the Theravada practitioners, like the Shravakas, then to understand the selflessness of a person. You know, when we talk about the 2 types of selflessness in the Wisdom chapter, chapter 9. And in the Mahayana, we practice the 6 parameters, and by that we create a mindfulness, you know, because there's, of course, there's meditation and wisdom involved. And by that, the Mahayana practitioners not only understand the selflessness of a person, but also of phenomena. And in the Vajrayana, we have more like a direct approach, you know, like with this vigilance or introspection or watching. We really watch inside. We watch the watcher, basically, you know, who's watching. So that is then happening, and that is sort of also how mindfulness is understood differently in different yanas. Yeah. Okay, and then another elephant, another benefit is here. But wait, did I say everything? Ah, yeah, here, fear. That is also important. So here we if our mind is more tamed, of course we have less fear, because an untamed mind, you know, has a lot more fantasy, a lot of more thoughts going on and on and on. It is really like endlessly discursive thoughts, we say, and also the more we have the mindfulness, the more we have a calmer mind, the more also we give like the mental atmosphere for wisdom to arise. And then, of course, if we look from the wisdom point of view, if we have more wisdom, then of course we have less fear, because we don't cling so much to our own boxes, to our own beliefs or ideas or opinions, you know. And therefore it's more easy to let go of fixed ideas, you know. It's more easy to let go of thoughts and of fears, you know, because if we have more understanding of wisdom, I mean, if we have more that cognition of wisdom, that is seeing the illusory-like nature of things, then yeah, they don't bother us so more, and also fear can then not creep in so easily, because there's nothing we could be afraid of actually, or there's nothing that we could hope to get. So like that is sort of one of the biggest benefits of wisdom, you know, that we have less hope and less fear. It is like in a lucid dream, you know. In a normal dream, we don't see in a normal dream, we don't understand that it's only a dream, and therefore, if there are difficult situations, we take them seriously, and therefore we hope to get rid of them, or we are afraid that they are harming us, whatever it is, you know. But if we see everything like a dream, like an illusion, like in a lucid dream, then in a lucid dream, we can play with whatever appears in our dream because we know it's just a dream. So therefore, we don't have really much hope to attain something or get something within the dream. And we don't really have so much suffering if we lose something in the dream that we actually want to have. Mm-hmm. So, yes, so therefore we apply mindfulness, and this is also to answer you, Dimitro. So we apply mindfulness, and by that our mind gets calmer. So by that shamatha is possible. So mindfulness is more like a conducive factor to attain the shamatha or the shini, the calm abiding. And the calm abiding then, that is here depicted. So then at some point you don't need the factor mindfulness anymore, you leave the rope behind. And then you have, your mind is very wide here. And by that, then the mind is also very calm. And then even you can ride on the calmed and pacified mind. And then, as I just mentioned, then wisdom can come. Here's the sword of wisdom in the hand, of the yogi. So that is then the result, of mindfulness, vigilance, conscientiousness, taming the mind, enabling shamatha, and that enables vipassana or wisdom to arise. So that is basic idea. And then thanks to wisdom, we will be liberated from samsara. And yeah. So therefore, if we have wisdom, then also there's, as I said, there is no reason to be afraid of anything. And then if we look at the next verse, verse 4, tigers, lions, elephants, bears, snakes, and all forms of enemies, the guardians of the world, evil spirits and of the hell worlds, evil spirits and cannibals. So here, Shantideva is just listing, many examples, maybe from that time, that were really like problematic things that one could run into on a daily basis. Luckily, I think most of us don't live in that situation, but of course you can add whatever viruses and germs and climate catastrophes and whatever you can add in here, So there are many dangers to this life, mentioned here, and then also, of course, we have dangers here for future lives, because I guess we are not living in hell at the moment, so maybe in the future life we might be in hell realm, and then these are the ones who are the dangers, or the ones who are punishing us. So all of this, Shantideva is saying here, all of these will be bound by binding my mind alone, and will all be subdued by subduing my mind alone. So that is really the idea, that if we apply this rope here of mindfulness, or that makes us, or that enables a single-pointed shamatha, and therefore it a wisdom, if we apply that like this, then our mind naturally will turn to a virtuous direction, and then all these dangers will not appear anymore, because from a Buddhist point of view, all these dangers come from negative karma that we have accumulated, and And if we stop accumulating negative karma, and if we purify already accumulated negative karma, then yeah, our future will be much more happy and peaceful, because then negative results will not arise. And so therefore it is important. Wait, I have to close this here. And therefore it is very important to apply these factors here, like introspection or vigilance, and mindfulness, and of course kindness, compassion, and so on are important. And if you practice Vajrayana, of course the deities are important. And then that can be understood, to have an effect to the future life, because we will stop doing negative things and we will purify negative karma. But there are many stories from Mahasiddhas and great practitioners, like Gyaltse Tokme Tsangpo, from the 37 practices of Bodhisattvas, or there were other Mahasiddhas who just by their presence, and thanks to their mindfulness and their vigilance, they could even tame animals around them, and made them very friendly and peaceful, and playful. So there are stories like that this even creates this circumstances in this life already that that pacifies like enemies outside or animals outside that could be dangerous. So I think that is always like a sign of practice, that if you practice well, of course, that has an influence to the environment that you are in. It radiates out. It has a transformative quality to the outside. So please, if you have anything to discuss, please let me know. If not, now we come to some quotes or some scriptures. So here in verse 6, it says, it is really again emphasized, how important it is to really protecting and guarding the mind. And here Shantideva is saying that he didn't make it up, but that you can find these instructions by or in the sutras, taught by the Buddha, of course, also in the Shastras taught by the great masters. And here it says, the perfect teacher himself has shown that in this way all fears as well as all boundless miseries originate from the mind. So that is, of course, like it is very easy to understand on a superficial level, of course, the fear, the hope, the jealousy, the distraction, the delusion, of course, it only happens in the mind. So of course, the mind is the one, to take care of. And in the commentaries, you can find, many quotes, from the sutras that explain that that all dangers and sufferings are coming or are created by the mind, or that is also said, if you control your mind, then everything else is controlled, and we will gain control over everything outside. This is in Vajrayana, it's even taught more about that, how you can then have an influence on the outer appearances. As I also mentioned earlier with the Gyaltse Tokme, for example. And of course, everything, all our love and our anger, and therefore all our beneficial actions and all our harmful actions, they all come from the mind. And so every karma is, of course, accumulated by the mind. and every action is of course triggered by the mind. Maybe it's not so obvious, that the mind is doing that sometimes because we maybe speak directly or act with the body directly, but it's of course always the mind who has the first intention behind. Therefore, yeah, we can say, that the mind is our biggest friend, but also our biggest enemy, And also in the sutras, it is said, there is actually no bigger enemy apart from the mind. And it is also like if you have a wood, in the sutras, it said, if you have a wood and there's fire, then the wood is, of course, nourishing the fire, and the fire is destroying the wood. So actually, the wood is destroying itself. It's like an autoimmune disease. So likewise, the mind creates its own suffering and its own problems, I mean, of course, all the problems are mind-made and are experienced by the mind. So it's really like a very useless thing. And so that is what is happening all the time. So this is here to point out, that it's of course the mind that plays the most important role, and it is the mind, therefore, that should be protected and should be trained. And then verse 7, and here Shantideva is giving now some reasons, why faults like fear and so on depend on the mind. And here he's asking, who intentionally created all the weapons for those in hell? Who created the burning iron ground? From where did all the women in hell ensure? So if you look at the hell realms, there are like so many sufferings depicted, and there are so many instruments of torture, or there is so much pain afflicted, and it's so cold and so hot, and there's this burning iron ground, and then also there are these former affairs that you have, these women, and they seduce you to go up somewhere, the shamali trees, that cut you, and then you bleeding, and you end up there, and then you hear the women from downstairs, so you go down again, Anyway, there's all these appearances, all these painful appearances that happen in hell. Yeah, Pallavi, I meant these women there that I just meant, that are in the hell. So anyway, I will explain it more. So anyway, there are all these appearances in hell and in other realms, of course. But hell is, of course, intensively bad and painful. So Shantideva is asking, where is all that coming from? Who is the creator? Is there a god? Is there an Indra who created all that or not? Yeah, Pallavi. So this women in hell, that is like a specific hell, the hell of the Shamali trees. This will be taught in the 10th chapter more. So this is one specific hell realm where you are born if you committed adultery in this life. So let's say I'm married, and then if I have my affairs, and then if I die, and then maybe I will be reborn because of many causes and conditions, I will be reborn in that hell. That is how it's said traditionally. And then there are all these instruments of torture, and there's also then these shamali trees, and so I come to, let's say I come to this tree or forest, and then on the top of the tree, I hear then the voice of the woman I had an affair with, and then of course I still have that desire and attraction to her, and then I want to go to her, and then so I climb up that tree, but then these the branches are maybe like swords, or the leaves are made out of knives, you know, so they cut me in the process of reaching up there, you know. And once I'm up there, she is not there anymore, but the woman, or the voice of the woman, I hear then at the bottom of the hill, or bottom of the forest or tree. And then again, because of this, I climb down, and then I cut myself even more. And this goes like endless. So that is then the what is meant here. So Shantideva is asking, who created all that scenario, these situations? And then he says in verse 8, the Mighty One, Buddha, has said that all such things are the workings of an evil mind. Hence, within the three world spheres, there's nothing to fear other than my mind. So that is also said, you know, in some sutras, you know, it's also said, you know, yeah, that this iron ground of the hell realm, you know, all these flames and fires, and then the cutting of my body and so on. Where does that come from? And the answer is, it all comes from the mind. So it's all created by karma, and karma is created by the mind. And therefore, the idea here is, the logic behind is that the whole world, and all three worlds, you know, not only the world that we know, but all the other worlds and universes, they are all created by the mind. And all the suffering is created by the mind, all the pain is created by the mind. And so therefore it is so important to guard and protect the mind and apply mindfulness, so that we are less distracted, because distraction gives rise to negative emotions, and so that we are less deluded. And the more we tame our mind, and the more we train our mind, the less distraction we have, the less kleshas we have. So that is here the point. I heard Dzongsar Khyentse Rinpoche saying it sounds very Chitta Machen here, that everything is the mind. Yeah, maybe it is, and Rinpoche has also said, yeah, also like Shantideva earlier was more like Chitta Matra, where the mind is so much emphasized. But Shantideva here, of course, is not saying that the mind truly exists. You know, it's just that everything is created by the mind, you know. So that is what I meant earlier, you know, what we will experience in the future, of course, depends on the karma we accumulate now. So what we experience depends on the karma, and karma depends on the mind. And then also how we experience that, what we meet. So the how, of course, is also dependent on the mind. So both the what and the how is dependent on the mind, you know, to put it like that. And so therefore, yes, the mind is super important. Again, the Chitta Machins then would say yes, and the mind, or the alaya, is then truly existent. But we are not talking about that here. We don't talk about true existence here. Because here in this text, Shantideva is teaching from the Prasangika Madhyamika point of view, and of course he is agreeing, and we will find that in the 9th chapter, that the mind is of course not truly existent. But nevertheless, even though the mind is not truly existent, on the relative level, all these things appear out of the mind or because of the mind. Yes, Dimitro, like Shitamatsans, not talk that the mind exists independently, yeah, but not the mind, the normal mind that we know, but they talk more about this all the basis behind, the mental basis, the all base consciousness, like behind this normal mind that we normally perceive. They think there's a truly existent mind behind all of that. Yes. Mm. And that is the only thing that the Madhyamikans refute. They totally accept that everything is created by the mind. What we perceive and how we perceive it is dependent on the mind. But nevertheless, Madhyamikans would not say that, yeah, the mind is truly existent. I just drink something. Wait a moment. Okay, Pallavi is he said everything is projection of, and it's not truly cultivate and sustain at all times. That is a totally Vajrayana thing, pure perception. Madhyamika, like here, Sutrayana or Madhyamika, what we will study in the 9th chapter, doesn't go that far. It just says everything is emptiness, and and then Vajrayana on top of that would say everything is a deity, But you can a little bit understand it from Madhyamika point of view already, that let's say what do you mean Shunyata for Mahayanists for now can work well? Yeah, I want to explain. So if I'm not Vajrayana practitioner, let's say, and totally concentrate on Mahayana, on emptiness, as the object to be cognized. Let's say if I'm getting sick, or if somebody is insulting me, or if somebody is stealing something from me, then let's say I'm getting sick, then normally we would say, oh, that is something, But let's say because, let's say let's say I get a big headache tomorrow, yeah. So then everybody, when I tell you tomorrow I have a lot of headache, I'm vomiting all the time because of my headache. I'm dizzy and I can't go out. I only want to lay in my bed in the dark, And then everybody would be very compassionate with me and say, "Oh, you poor thing, you're suffering. The headache is bad, But then my friends tomorrow maybe go out to the city, and then maybe they catch the coronavirus and they get sick by that, But thanks to my headache, I didn't go out, and therefore I didn't catch the coronavirus. And then they are all in quarantine, they are all in the hospital because of the virus. And then they will say, oh, lucky you had a headache. Therefore, you didn't get the coronavirus. Got it? So, that shows, just from Madhyamika point of view, the headache is not inherently good or bad, but it's inherently empty by nature, right? And therefore, you have the chance, depending on your reference points and depending on your context, that you perceive it as something positive, like, yes, it prevented you to get the virus, or you perceive it as something negative, or it made you vomit. So, and the idea here is in Madhyamika that everything is empty by nature. So everything is like that. Everything can be perceived in this way or that way. I can think, oh, Pallavi, you're so super beautiful. Or I could say, oh, Pallavi, you're very ugly. This is totally only depends on my projection, because you and anybody else and anything else is actually neither beautiful nor ugly. Therefore, I can project everything on everything. I can project everything on anything. So, and if this is the case, then I can sort of choose, do I want to project a negative thing all the time? Headache is bad. Everybody is ugly. The situation is difficult. Or do I train my mind and try to perceive everything more positively, by saying, oh, headache is good, it prevented me from the virus. Or Pallavi is beautiful. Or everybody is beautiful. Or that situation is helpful, So it's totally up to me. I can totally perceive things how I project it. How I like in the computer, how I save it. I can save it as in the folder of bad, or I can save it in the folder of positive. And so that is sort of how you can come from Madhyamika emptiness understanding, and then understanding that everything depends on your perspective. You can slowly then get the pure perception Vajrayana, where you see things more positive, or by seeing that they are neither positive nor negative. That itself is actually the pure perception. So that is possible to see it like that. But yeah, Vajrayana and pure perception is super important. But yeah, it's another topic. And then the next verses from 9 to 17, Shantideva is still in the same direction. Everything is coming from the mind. He is explaining also that all the virtues and 6 parameters come from the mind. So first, of course, we start with generosity. And so basically the idea is in the next verses from 9 to 17, the idea is that you can ask, when is a parameter perfected? And so this you can ask, and the answer, is it because is generosity perfected if there's no beggar in the world anymore, or is patience perfected when there's no nothing disturbing in the world, or whatever, if everything goes well in the world, is then patience perfected? And the answer is always no. It's like a perfection in the in the mind, that makes it a perfection. Because if the outer world would be the indication for the perfection of a parameter, then we would say sea, we still have beggars. So therefore, the parameter of generosity has not been perfected. So therefore, Buddha doesn't have the perfection of generosity. That would be that would be the unwanted consequence. But of course, that is not the case. Shantideva is saying, no, it's all depends on the mind. If you have fully perfected the quality to let go and the readiness to give, then that is a perfection of generosity. And this, of course, the Buddha has done, even though outside there are still people suffering from our point of view. So here the question starts then. If the perfection of generosity were the alleviation of the world's poverty, then since beings are still starving now, in what manner did the previous Buddha perfect it? Yeah, I think that's what I meant. If generosity was something physical, then eliminating the poverty of the world, then of course the Buddha would not have perfected generosity. Dimitri, Dimitri, I will come to that. That's a good question. Just finish the generosity. And then 10th, the perfection of generosity is said to be the thought to give all beings everything, together with the fruit of such a thought. Hence, it is simply a state of mind. So, I mean, I already, what was it? Like a spoiler alert. I already told you what Shantideva will say. So, yes, generosity is more a mental thing, it's an intention or attitude or perfection of giving or letting go, and everything, the readiness to let go of everything, the body, the objects, even the merit of giving itself, like I give my mug or my cup, and then that is already generosity, and then the merit that comes from giving the cup, that also I dedicate and give away, And here, of course, we try to, and that is perfected if we are really free of any grasping or clinging or expectation or of any attachment or miserliness or stim, or how is it called? The peg red habit, or my parents called it the Khyentse Rinpoche, So in the sutras, generosity is really the sincere wish, to give whatever one has, and to even give the positive karmic result of giving. And plus, please don't forget parahamita. Paramita means go beyond. Paroltashva in Tibetan, so that means to be a transcendent act. Just giving is not enough, but you have to have the wisdom in union with it. So we always should know that the giver and the object that we give and the giving itself, the action and the receiver, that everything is empty by nature. Everything is like illusory. Okay, here Dimitri is asking, but following this, we can just sit on our butt and think, I give you my land and so on, instead of acting to people who really need help. That is really like, that is really a big question. That question is often asked, I notice in the teachings. You could also put it like that, what is better, to go to retreat in the mountain, and meditate there as a yogi, not see anybody anymore in this lifetime? Or is it maybe better to the city, That is sort of what you're asking. Is meditation better or action what is better, like social action. I think that's what you're referring to. Mm. I heard different answers from different Rinpoches. Some say just do both, you know. Be socially kind and helpful, but also sit on your butt, you know, and more, you know, Khyentse Rinpoche is saying. Yeah, so both, you know, like meditate, but also help beings like physically or verbally. Then others teachers also say, who are we to really beings, you know? We are so confused, full of emotions. We have no idea what the other person really needs, you know? We have no clairvoyance enough. So therefore, better meditate first, you know, before you start helping others. Like Kanto Rinpoche is saying, maybe the best way to help others is by giving them a break from you, you know, from your constant interference. That is how we could understand it. So that maybe by isolating ourselves, you know, we maybe benefit beings because we're not destroying them anymore all the time, and we're not stealing their time and whatever, you know, and not challenging their patience, and we are not annoying anymore. Yeah, you are saying there is no need in clear for kind heart. Yes and no. Kind heart is good, but it can make so many mistakes. You need wisdom behind it, you know. Otherwise, it's really dangerous because if we don't have a kind heart, if you don't have clear points, we just don't know what we can't read the other person's mind. We just only can guess, you know, what the other person needs. And therefore we can create so much more trouble and so much more problems. Wait, I just need to charge something. So, yeah, that is really the point from teachings. You know, we this wisdom and the six knowledges where we can see exactly in the mind of the other person. You know, what are the habitual patterns? What are thoughts? Even what are the inclinations, dispositions, and so that we can teach properly, that we can really help exactly. Otherwise, it's only guessing and we are only projecting all the time. And that is dangerous, you know, if we just have a good will to help, but we have no idea actually how to do it or what could be done. So therefore, if you follow this perspective, then, and this is actually what I heard from many teachers, better meditate. Because the social help you could do now is of course good, but it's limited. But if you meditate really well and really train your mind and develop all these qualities, even though this lifetime you're not helping anyone like socially anymore, but you will be much more helpful in the future. And I would also say, then even if the next 5 lifetimes you're not helping anyone socially, you know, but you're only like a yogi in the mountains, but then you become a Buddha after 5 lifetimes, then it's amazing what you can help, you know, it's much more benefit than what you can produce in one day as a Buddha. It's much better than 5 lifetimes of social positive activities, you know, you could argue like that. And really, like the ability to read the mind of others is super important. This is also is taught in many texts. You know, yeah, I think that's what I wanted to say to that. But then, as I said in the beginning, yeah, some say, okay, if you're in doubt, then, if you're doubting what is better, then just do both, Like the Dalai Lama, I think he said, it's maybe do like, if you have a proper job, try to have 3 months off every year and do a retreat for 3 months, A half-time job, why not? Half, retreat and then also working and doing positive actions. And of course, it's very individual also. If somebody is very attached to meditate and even have like aversion to be with people and helping them, maybe this person should help people full time, But if somebody is attached to the idea of helping people is good, and I'm so necessary in the world to help beings, then maybe it's good to isolate oneself and do long life retreat, like this. Everything is very individual, of course. Then 11. Now we talk about discipline. Nowhere has the killing of fish and other creatures been eradicated, for the attainment of merely the thought to forsake such things is explained as the perfection of moral discipline. Here again, that discipline is not perfected only when there's no more killing in the world, because it is impossible to bring all sentient beings to a physical place, that is free of suffering. Impossible. But if in our heart, we decide not to harm anyone, that is the perfection of discipline. That is also said in the sutra, that it is said, really the intention to abandon harming others, that is the perfection of discipline. Yeah, so again, if you're a heterosexual man, then then discipline is not perfected by locking away all women, that is not, of course, not discipline, but if you overcome your usual desire, that is how discipline is perfected. Okay, Pallavi, what sounds scary here? Okay, then the next verse is on patience. Maybe you write it or not. So I think we have 3 verses on patience, and there's one very famous verse in it. So verse 12, unruly beings are as unlimited as space. They cannot possibly all be overcome. But if I overcome thoughts of anger alone, this will be equivalent to vanquish all foes. So it's impossible, there will always be annoying people out there. There will be always annoying situations, we cannot get rid of all of them, It's limitless possibilities, that there are annoying people and annoying situations. And therefore there is really there's really no place in the world, that you can find where there is nothing annoying or nobody annoying to you. So that is definitely the case. There will be always somebody who's difficult, But if we are able to overcome our aversion or aggression or anger, then of course, then we don't perceive anybody or anything anymore as annoying or negative, you know, if we have this pure perception, and then of course by that all enemies are overcome, you know, then there's nobody that you perceive as an enemy, and therefore of course there is no enemy anymore in the world, you know, there's nobody you perceive as annoying, and therefore there's nobody annoying in the world. So it's totally up to us, you know, and that is here the parameter of patience, you know, again, you know, it's not about finding a place free of annoying people, but it's finding a mind state that is free of being annoyed. And really, like, try that maybe tomorrow, you know, to try to imagine, you know, how would my mind function if I have no aversion at all, you know, and no attachment also, you know. It would be amazing, you know. So here the perfection of anger, perfection of anger, exactly. The perfection of patience here is definitely like that we are not anymore under the influence of anger, you know, that we are totally undisturbed by anything, by everything. And then here in verse 13, and that is a very famous verse, I'm sure everybody has heard that so far. Where would I possibly find enough leather with which to cover the surface of the earth? But wearing leather just on the soles of my shoes is equivalent to covering the earth with it. So that is, I think, very clear and very beautiful. You know, if the whole world would be covered, you know, with spikes and stones and thorns and needles and nails and pieces of glass, you know. And if you have super sensitive soles, you know, super sensitive feet, you know, a very gentle, sensitive skin, you know, under your feet, you know, this would be so painful, you know, to walk outside, you know, if the whole world would be covered with these spiky things. And then you would, I don't know, look on Amazon, you know, and try to buy a lot of leather, you know. And of course, you can buy quite a lot of leather, maybe, or whatever, plastic or carpets, and then you can cover a little bit around your house, and that's fine. But you can never cover the whole world with it, you know, and therefore you cannot buy enough carpets and covers, you know, to cover up all the spikes and thorns and whatever. And but what you can always do, you can buy leather or whatever, plastic, and just put beneath your soles on your feet, and then wherever you go, sort of you are protected, you know. Therefore it is equal to covering the whole earth. Yeah, as I said, I'm sure you have heard that, so we don't need to go so much into it. But that is really the idea, and this is explained then in verse 14. Likewise, it is not possible for me to restrain the external cause of things, but should I restrain this mind of mine, what would be the need to restrain anything else? I don't know. Do you know the serenity prayer? I think, you know, when you are an alcoholic, you pray. There's one prayer, you know, you pray to God, basically, I think, and you say, you know, please, may I accept the things that I cannot change, and may I change the things that I can change, and may I have the wisdom to differentiate between these two. So basically, please let me see, can I change the situation? And if yes, may I be able to change it? And if I cannot change that situation, then may I be able to accept it, you know? So that is quite similar here, you know, because we understand that the outer things we cannot really change. So therefore, we should accept them. You know, we should accept annoying people maybe, or difficult situations, or long distance relationships, you know, whatever. But internally, what we can change is the mind. So our perception of it, our attitude to it, that is what we can work on. So therefore, that is the wisdom that Shantideva is offering to differentiate between these two. What we can change is our mind. And what we cannot change is the outer world, and that we have to accept. Yeah. So, and this is, yeah, meant here, you know, then if we, I said that earlier, you know, if we have really like overcome all our aversion to anyone, then of course, there is no enemy, there is no annoying person in the world anymore. Then, verse 15, now we come to diligence, which, wait, yeah, here, 15, it's, yeah, diligence, sorry, I'm just confused because there is concentration, but it's diligence. So this is the best antidote to laziness. As I mentioned earlier in chapter 7, this will be completely explained. Although the development of merely a state of concentration can result in taking birth in Brahma's realm, physical and vocal actions cannot so result when accompanied by weak mental conduct. And yeah, so here we're talking about diligence, you know. So if we have this meditation, you know, that can lead, you know, into the meditation realms, you know, or the states, you know, of dhyana in the form realm, or the other samadhis or dhyanas in the formless realms. Yes, that is fine, and there's a lot of bliss there. But so that is definitely possible, you know. And also, like, if you have like a small compassion, maybe that can also, especially if you die with that state, you know, that can also lead to great rebirths. But it is said here, if you really have this enthusiastic to do positive things, then you can really do big good things. You know, if you don't have that enthusiastic joy, you know, if your mental conduct is weak, you know, then yeah, your physical or verbal actions will not bring much result, you know. But if the mind is strong, then if you have diligence and steadfastness and joyfulness, then you can really make that our speech and our body bring good results. Okay, then verse 16. Now we talk about the fifth parameter, meditation. And then, yeah, we will do verse 17, and then we have all 6 parameters today. Yes. So, 16, the knower of reality, Buddha has said that even if recitation and physical hardships are practiced for long periods of time, they will be meaningless if the mind is distracted elsewhere. So, what we need is like a clear mind, you know. And the opposite of clear mind is either that we are too dull or too wild, you know. And if we don't have renunciation, then yes, our mind gets very easily distracted, and then we get wild. And if our mind is distracted, you know, then it doesn't matter what we do, you know, whatever rituals or sadhanas or mantras or mudras we do, the meditation practice is not accomplished. It's not the parameter of meditation, and no great result will come. And so therefore, the main thing is to be really there, to be really undistracted and present, whatever you do. Only then that action is meaningful. That is also said in the sutras. In the commentaries, you find different sutras where this is also said, like all your prayers will not give result, the Buddha said, if you are distracted, or all your hardships you undergo will not have a good result if you are distracted. And also it's difficult to really make possible the benefit of others if our mind is distracted. So that is therefore the point here is, again, it's the mind, if the mind is undistracted, that is the main thing. But like just reciting the sadhana and doing bell and dorje at the right time, that doesn't make it a meditation. It has to be an undistracted mind. Okay, and the last one for today, 17, the parameter of wisdom. Here actually, it's interesting. Here it's really the wisdom you can understand as being introduced to the nature of mind. Even those who wish to find happiness and overcome misery will wander with no aim nor meaning if they don't comprehend the secret of the mind, that is the nature of mind, the paramount significance of Dharma. So if you don't know the nature of things, the nature of mind, the secrecy of mind, then you are like this, in Tibetan it's called drova, this aimless wanderer in samsara, you go round and round and round with any direction, totally aimless and helpless. And you look always for happiness and you always find suffering. That is the problem, But if we understand the nature of mind, which is the union of emptiness and luminosity, normally that's how it's explained, and then that is the solution. And that nature of mind, of course, everybody has it, So therefore it's actually not secret, but it's rarely recognized. So that is sort of the recognition of it is also not secret, but it's just rare, that is meant here with secret. And the more we can understand that crucial point, then all the mental fabrications and projections, they're just vanish, or they're just like a magical display then, And so this will be explained more in the 9th chapter, of course, but this is just also like a teaser, a preview, what is coming in the 9th chapter, where then also we look into the mind and we try to find where is the mind actually, inside, outside, or in between. Does it have a size of color or shape, or does it have a birth or dwelling or death? That is always a good, these are the questions we can ask ourselves, but of course much slower than I just did. So because we really want to investigate the mind and go to the heart of it, or the bottom of it, or the nature of it. And that is the crucial point, and that is what will liberate us from samsara, and that is sort of the prajna parameter, the wisdom that recognizes that emptiness. Okay, and with this, verse 17, we then concluded this topic here that Shantideva was introducing, that that all qualities or all virtues or all practices all depend on the mind, or all come from the mind. And yes, Marina, this is a little bit similar to watching the watcher. Yes, even though, as I said, Vajrayana context, but that is definitely one of the 4 mindfulnesses in Madhyamika. that Shantideva is presenting, you know, where Shantideva is teaching the close mindfulness to the body, the mind, the feeling, and the phenomena. And that, that is more a practical approach in the 9th chapter, I guess, where we try to find the nature or the essence or the existence of mind. Okay, thank you all. Please all stay healthy, wash your hands. Don't buy too many masks. Some other people need them. And yeah, please take good care, practice well, and I forgot, but I think next week we have again a session if you like. Oh, I forgot when it is, so don't get confused. It's written somewhere. And yeah, thank you for participation and your attention, and please dedicate the merit to all sentient beings, for the good and the bad ones, to the humans and the non-humans, to everyone. Okay, thank you so much and take good care.